In 2022, we celebrate 130 years of HBCU football. On December 27th, 1892, Livingstone and Biddle College, now known as Johnson C. Smith University, played in Salisbury, North Carolina, with Biddle winning 5-0. Over time, HBCU football has evolved. HBCU football's popularity continues to rise. Millions attend games each year and millions more watch on television. The HBCU bands provide some of the top entertainment in the country. Over that time, some of the best players to ever play in the National Football League played at HBCUs. Every Monday through Friday on the HBCU Football Daily Podcast, national radio and television host Donal Ware takes a look at what's happening in HBCU football and talks with coaches, players, administrators, and media about the 2022 season. Make sure you join the conversation on social media by using the hashtag HBCU130. Now, here's your host, Donal Ware.
You got it locked to the HBCU Football Daily Podcast for today, Thursday, November 10th. I'm Donal Ware. Week 11 in HBCU football. We're going to transition into week 11. As a matter of fact, still have some games. Some of the games maybe not as meaningful. Some obviously are because they're championship games, and we're going to run all of that down for you on today. In the SIAC championship game, Benedict will be hosting Tuskegee. Remember, Benedict is undefeated, ranked number 1 in the Super Region, number 2 for the Division II playoffs. Tuskegee is ranked number 10, so Tuskegee's got some work to do, but I think a win by Tuskegee could go a long way towards the Golden Tigers getting in to the playoffs. Howard is hosting South Carolina State. Really a critical game for both teams, particularly for South Carolina State. It could all be null and void for both teams, and I'll explain to you why as I continue with the schedule. Lincoln of Missouri is on the road, a conference game against Missouri Western. West Virginia State is on the road against Charleston. West Virginia State is already guaranteed a winning season, but definitely would look to add to that. In the CIAA championship game, Fayetteville State for the 5th year in a row making its appearance in the CIAA championship game, going to be taking on Shawan. Remember, these two teams met earlier in the season with Fayetteville State winning a close matchup. Hampton is going to be hosting Elon in CAA play. North Carolina A&T is going to be hosting Charleston Southern in Big South play. Texas College hosting Louisiana College. Edward Waters is hosting Allen. Norfolk State is hosting North Carolina Central. Now, this is the deal for North Carolina Central. A win for the Eagles. The Eagles are in. A win by Norfolk State, and then things are still kind of in the air because this is the last conference game for North Carolina Central this year. North Carolina Central's last regular season game of the season is going to be next Saturday against Texas Tech. So again, for the Eagles win, the Eagles are in. In other action, Alabama State is hosting Florida A&M. I mean, listen, both teams, really Florida A&M still has an outside shot at the Eastern Division crown, but that would require FAMU winning against Alabama State and then also winning against Bethune-Cookman next week. Meanwhile, Jackson State has to lose 2 games. I just don't think that's going to happen. And Alabama State, of course, when you look at Jackson State and Alabama State, Jackson State holds the tiebreaker in that particular scenario. But what Florida A&M is looking at is FCS playoffs. Alcorn State is hosting Bethune-Cookman. Arkansas Pine Bluff is hosting Prairie View A&M. Delaware State is hosting Morgan State. Again, Delaware State, but really both Delaware State and Morgan State still kind of in the mix for the MEAC championship, but it's a long shot. Now, when you look at North Carolina Central against Norfolk State had a chance to call their game last week, or the Spartans game last week against North Carolina A&T, and Norfolk State can play in spurts. No doubt about that. So the Eagles just got to go ahead and close that one out. Virginia Lynchburg going to be on the road at the Citadel. Langston is hosting Southwestern Assemblies of God. Now, Langston is 3 losses. Going to be tough maybe to make the NAIA playoffs, but a win, I mean, they're still in it. So obviously they want to go out and do well, win that football game, and then let the chips fall where they may. Tennessee State is hosting UT Martin in OVC action. Alabama A&M is hosting Jackson State. Southern hosting Mississippi Valley State. Texas Southern is hosting Grambling State. Remember that Western Division is still up in the air. Prairie View A&M has the advantage over everyone. Prairie View A&M is off this week, but definitely has the lead. The lead. Winning out means a win, or a win next week would mean Prairie View A&M would win this thing. But again, if Prairie View A&M loses, there's a couple of scenarios in that SWAC Western Division. Finally, Florida Memorial is on the road at Fort Lauderdale. So really the championship games are key. When you look at Shawan and Fayetteville State, neither one of them are in the regional rankings, so they're not going to get into the regionals. Again, there's no automatic bid in Division II. But wow, I mean, Shawan's first appearance in the CIAA championship game. Meanwhile, Fayetteville State, 5 straight appearances, would like to get the victory to kind of get the monkey off their backs in terms of making it to the CIAA championship game, but ultimately not being able to win it. So that's a look at today's HBCU Football Daily Podcast and Week 11 in HBCU football. Don't forget to tell a couple of friends about the HBCU Football Daily Podcast, where you can find us on our website at boxtorow.com, also on iHeartMedia.com, and wherever you get your podcasts. You can also watch the HBCU Football Daily Podcast on the Box to Row YouTube page. Of course, tomorrow it's Friday, and we're previewing the HBCU National Game of the Week. Talk with you tomorrow.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the HBCU Football Daily Podcast. You can also listen to the podcast at boxtorow.com, iHeartMedia, or wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to get your HBCU football fix on Box to Row with Donal Ware each weekend on the radio station near you, and on SiriusXM on HBCU Channel 142, and on ESPNU Radio on SiriusXM Channel 84. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Box to Row for the latest in HBCU football, and don't forget to tell a friend.